What's going on, movie fans? Welcome to episode 10 of the Real Takes podcast here on WSVC Radio. I'm your host, Dan Sisk. I'm back this week to review the new sci-fi horror thriller Companion, which just released in theaters this week, so let's get into it. This film is written and directed by Drew Hancock. This is his feature directorial debut. Doesn't, again, really have a big track record in television or shorts, so he's kind of brand new. But the reason I was really excited about this movie is that Companion is produced by Zach Krieger. Now, Zach Krieger is a man with a very interesting career. He started off in the sketch comedy group Whitest Kids You Know out of Canada. Absolutely hysterical sketch comedy group. Very dark humor, so you have to be really into dark humor in order to get into them. But I thought they were hilarious. And then a couple years ago, Zach Krieger made his feature directorial debut with the horror comedy Barbarian, which is one of the best horror comedies of the last 15 years. Horror comedies typically aren't my really... I guess you can say they aren't my specialty when it comes to the horror genre. I much prefer serious horror flicks. But again, in terms of horror comedies, Barbarian is one of the better ones. So Krieger's involvement definitely interested me in this movie. This film stars Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. Sophie Thatcher, some of you might know her from her other horror roles. She was just in Heretic, which I reviewed on this show a couple months ago. She was great in that. She's probably more well known for her television work. I first saw her in Yellow Jackets on Showtime, where I thought she did a spectacular job. And then she was also in the Book of Boba Fett miniseries over on Disney+. So those are probably her most well-known roles to date. And then Jack Quaid, who we all love from The Boys. He's one of the main characters on that show. And even though this last season wasn't great, Jack Quaid continues to be probably the heart and soul of that show. So I was very excited to see him take on a more villainous role in this movie. The basic setup for Companion is that Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid are a couple who go on a weekend getaway with some good friends of theirs, and the whole getaway slowly turns more sinister. And if that is a very bland premise, that's because I am intentionally excluding several details of the story that were unfortunately revealed in the trailer for this movie, which showed too much. I wish I didn't see the trailer before going into this movie. So I'm not going to spoil it here. You guys should go into Companion fresh. It is a brand spanking new movie. It's a very fresh premise, and I don't want it spoiled for you. Positives. The acting. Jack Quaid is very good in this movie. He's not doing anything that we haven't seen him do before. He's kind of playing into his Scream... which one was he in? Scream 5. He's playing into his Scream 5 performance here, so it's not, again, super fresh for him, but he does a nice job. The star of the show here, Sophie Thatcher, she carries the entire movie on her back, and she does an incredible job. I would actually say this is the best thing she's ever done. I thought Sophie Thatcher commanded the screen. She was funny when she needed to be. She played into the movie's violence when she needed to. It was just a very, very good performance, and I really hope that she gets some more exciting roles in the horror genre. I mean, Heretic and Companion, those are two really solid movies, particularly Heretic, which I absolutely adored. And then, again, I'm a big fan of her television work, so I hope her star continues to come on the rise. I believe she's only 24 or 25, so she has the bulk of her career ahead of her. And again, I hope it just continues to go up, because she deserves the recognition. In terms of the actual story, again, I really can't say a lot, because the whole point is that you really want to go in fresh and not know the twists of the story going in. But it takes a lot of inspiration from sci-fi movies that are very well known. There's a little bit of Get Out. There's a little bit of Terminator. There's a little bit of, it's a whole genre blend. And a Barbarian is obviously a little bit of that in there, and it kind of puts it all together and turns itself into a very entertaining and very fun package. I would say that Barbarian is better. I think Barbarian had, for anyone who hasn't seen Barbarian, there is a shift in the middle of the movie that is so drastic and so on the nose and so in your face that it needs to be seen to be believed. I remember seeing it in a near sold out theater, and literally everyone in the theater started freaking out when they saw what was happening because it was just such a left turn from where we had started just a couple seconds earlier. This movie tries to go for a similar feel, and it comes up a little short of of Barbarian in that regard. So that was a little unfortunate, but overall, really solid script. I think Drew Hancock has a bright future ahead of him. I don't know if he's ever going to become one of these prestige horror directors. I don't think he's going to be a Damian McCarthy. I don't think he's going to be a Mike Flanagan. I don't think he's going to be an Oz Perkins or anything like that. But I do think he has a future in this genre, and I hope that the moderate box office success of Companion, it did pretty well in its opening weekend. I hope that the moderate success of this movie kind of propels him to get some more gigs, because he's got talent, he's got some ability, and I would like to see him make more movies. And I feel this is yet another victory for the horror genre, but on a more interesting note, this is a victory for studio horror flicks. As you guys heard me rant about last week when it came to Presence, I'll just reiterate myself. In my Presence review, I talked about how Neon, which is the studio that distributed Presence, as well as A24, those are two independent distributors who are releasing horror movies that are pushing the edge of the envelope and doing some really exciting things within the genre. Companion is a Warner Brothers movie, and Warner Brothers had a run there where they were making some really good horror movies, but then they really started to teeter off. I mean, they had The Conjuring, they had It, they had some really solid ones, but then The Conjuring fell off, It fell off. There were a lot of duds when it came to Warner Brothers horror division, and I started to lose faith in their ability to consistently churn out some quality product. However, Companion is their first really good horror movie in a long time. And it really it invigorated me and showed me, what a studio horror flick can do. Like, it might not be as boundary pushing as some of the more exciting entries in this genre, like Presence, but it will do the job. It will satisfy its audience, and it'll be entertaining from start to finish. So that's very encouraging. This got me a lot more excited for Zach Krieger's follow-up to Barbarian. It's a new horror thriller called Weapons. It comes out in January of 2026, so we're still a year out from that movie. But to see Warner Brothers really allow Krieger and Hancock to kind of stretch their wings and go as far as, a studio picture will allow them to, it made me excited that Weapons could end up being as good as Barbarian, if not better. And that was very exciting to really, witness. Last thing that I kind of want to mention, this movie is also produced by Roy Lee. Now, I can guarantee that no one listening to the show knows who Roy Lee is. He's been a long-time producer in Hollywood. He has a lot of movies to his name. He's really turned himself into a producer who finds these very small scripts and is able to get them made and produced with some respectable budgets. And he's been doing some incredible stuff within the horror genre in recent years. He produced Strange Darling, which is a very, very underrated and criminally underseen thriller that came out last year. That movie was fantastic. He produced Barbarian. He produced Don't Worry, Darling, which I hated, but, he still got it made. And then Boy Kills World, which I was very lukewarm on. He's not really consistent enough for me to call him a god, but he is constantly giving chances and opportunities to new storytellers and giving them an opportunity to make a name for themselves. So even though the movies might not be the best, again, I hated Don't Worry Darling, and I thought Boy Kills World was not very good. It was just a Running Man ripoff. Roy Lee is helping to take chances on a lot of new movies and a lot of new talent, so I think we should be giving him a lot of props for that. That's pretty much all I can say about Companion. I know I didn't talk about the movie very much, but trust me, guys, this is a movie you want to go in fresh, and you want to experience it as the story unfolds, because you want to go in cold. Let's put it that way. Again, this is a huge victory for main studio horror flicks, at a time when I thought that a lot of them were just straight up bad, and that there was a very low chance of a lot of them being good. The Companion is a really, really solid one, and I cannot wait to see Zach Krieger's Weapons next January. That's going to be one of my most anticipated movies of next year, actually. I was that impressed with Barbarian, and I really enjoyed Companion for what it was. So, yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this week. I hope you enjoyed listening. Again, trust me, go in cold. You'll have a great time with it. We will be back next week. Obviously, next week is the Super Bowl, so you're not going to get... Normally, you don't get a lot of big releases in theaters because the studios are busy prepping marketing for the Super Bowl. So there's a couple new movies coming out next week that I do not think are worth my time in theaters. Love Hurts, the new action movie from 87 North, which is the production company behind Nobody, Bullet Train, and a lot of the other B-to-C level action movies of the last couple years. I just have zero interest, guys. I'm sorry. I don't want to watch that, so you're not getting a review of that. You also have Hard Eyes coming out, which is a new Valentine's Day themed slasher movie that is actually getting very good reviews, much better reviews than I expected it to. But I just watched the trailer, and I don't think that it looks like it's, again, worth a trip to the multiplex. So we're not going to be reviewing new releases, and as you guys know, I do not review television until I have the whole season under my belt, and we have no new television to talk about. So next week, we're going to be catching up on some Oscar nominees that I have yet to watch. I've watched The Brutalist the other day. I will be reviewing that next week. I'm very excited to talk about that movie. And then I'll also be talking about Nickel Boys, which is a new movie that came out again at the end of last year, finally got distribution here in Pittsburgh. It is a movie about an abusive reform school for troubled teenagers back in the 1990s, but it's told from a POV perspective in first person. It's told in first person. So it's a very radical way of shooting the movie. And again, it's supposed to be a very, very good movie. So those were the last two Best Picture nominees that I was personally interested in that I had not seen prior to the Oscar Best Picture lineup getting announced last week. So again, I've seen The Brutalist. I have yet to watch Nickel Boys. I'll watch that this week. Those will be the two movies that I review for next week's episode, right before we go to the Super Bowl. So that'll be exciting. And also, just for fun, we have Fantastic Four and Jurassic World Rebirth trailers coming out this week. So I might, just to kind of prep for the Super Bowl spots that both movies will inevitably have, I might, provide my thoughts on those two movies. That'll be fun to talk about because those are obviously two really, really big blockbusters that are coming out this year, both in July, I believe. So both are coming out in July. So yeah, busy week. Get ready because, guys, Brutalist is so good. I can't wait to talk about it next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope to have similar nice things to say about Nickel Boys. I think I will. So, yeah, that's it for episode 10 of The Real Takes. Tune in next week for Brutalist and Nickel Boys reviews, as well as possible trailer reactions and trailer predictions for the Super Bowl. So that'll be fun as well. Yeah, that's it for this week on The Real Takes. Again, this is your host, Dan Sisk. We'll see you next week.
Hey there, listeners. I'm Matt Boyer, station manager of WSVC Radio. If you like what you're listening to, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button to be notified with all of our updates. Every day, one of our shows will be releasing a new episode. Stick around and tune in.